So, welcome everyone to today's Shamans Directory live event. I'm Tricia Bennett. I'm one of the regular hosts of Shamans Directory Live, and I am really honored to welcome Chuck Wilson, who is a master drum maker of Wakan Drums for our live event today. And before we begin, I'm just going to let you know a little bit about Shamans Directory and a little bit about Chuck. So, Shamans Directory is an online global platform for shamanic earth-based services. We invite Western trained as well as First Nation original people, shaman healers, and earth-based teachers to join us on our platform. And we invite all those who are seeking healing or to find more balance in their lives to make an appointment. Today, we have Chuck Wilson with us, and we are going to have what I would imagine will be a very heartfelt discussion about drums, about sacred objects, and about connecting with the sacred in all things. So, Chuck Wilson is a man who could have done anything with his life. He had a successful career in engineering, and at the point where he could have chosen retirement, he answered a call from spirit to make sacred drums. A master drum maker, it is our honor to have Chuck with us as a member of Shamans Directory and today for this conversation. So we have a wonderful hour and a half shaman to shaman interview with Chuck on our YouTube channel that he did with Wake that you can watch and hear the full story of Chuck's call to service to bring Wakan drums to the earth. And in this live event today, we hope to dive more deeply into what he shared with us in that interview. So I'm going to turn the conversation over to Wake, who's another one of our regular hosts here at Shamans Directory. And he's going to tell you a little bit more about Chuck before we get started.
Thank you so much, Tricia, and welcome to Shaman's Directory. Chuck Wilson, as you'll soon find out if you don't already know, is a spiritual master. He's had his awakening, he's immersed himself in shamanic studies, and he's touched countless shamanic communities. Chuck Wilson's spiritual instrument is the drum. Today, we're delighted to receive his sharing of stories about the birthing of the drum, its care and feeding or stewardship, and the drum's uses and places in his life. He envisions leading an experience with us that is journeying to the heart of the drum to see what might be found there. And finally, we hope to discuss toward the end of our program today how it is to live the life of a shaman in this world of today. Shaman's Directory is honored to bring Chuck to the fire. We hope you enjoy this experience and learn not only about the drum in your possession, but also about your own spiritual instruments, what you hold to be sacred. So, Chuck, it's really a delight once again to see you. I just want to turn it over to you without any more falderall, and it's would be fitting, I think, for us to meet you and to have you introduce, if you would, one of your sacred drums named Freya.
So yeah, it's been quite an interesting past number of years. It's like 12 years, 13 years ago when I had my awakening. And the drums came to light in my life about a little over 5 years ago when my life partner Sandy passed. It was about 3 months after that, I was given a instruction, hey, you need to make a drum. And I had never made a drum in my life. I had read a lot about them, and I used some in my training classes and various people, various shamans I worked with, and workshops and things on the table and everything like that. But I really didn't understand too much what they were because my eyes were still going, what's this? What's this? It seems okay. Well, when I went and met with my two shaman people, Sharon and Charlie Henderson of Whidbey Island up in Washington State. Um, that was an experience for all of us because, bottom line, while I was sitting there making my drum Freya, it's a bear drum, it's a black bear, and cedar frame. And Charlie stopped this. He stopped just as we started, and he said, "Hey, I got to tell you something. As a child, he saw spirits, and he worked with spirits all the time growing up, and he was in his 50s. And he said, everything was great, but right now, I got to tell you, before we start, Sandy's standing right there, and she's in full Technicolor, and she is launching off on telling me, you, Sharon, what is going to go into Freya, what I'm supposed to do, on and on." She was part of the conversation for about 3 hours with this immense amount of energy and things that she was bringing in, and then saying, where I'm linking yoga, so I'm doing this, you have to do this. And I was just in shock. Charlie and Sharon were in shock. The other two people were in shock because they never experienced something that long, that powerful, with a spirit in the room directing the operation. I still really haven't run into anybody who's gone through something like that. And I could hardly speak. I mean, I was so emotional and tears and just working on this drum that I started working on it. And then Charlie goes, "Well, do this, do that." And I was doing it. And he says, "You've done this before." I just kept doing it, So it was an amazing experience. And I think I'd like to start, if you just, for a couple of moments, your drum or whatever thing that you have is a spiritual tool. Why don't you hold that just for a second, and I'll do a little bit of speaking with Freya, and close your eyes, go into a happy space, and just see what you might hear. We'll do this for a couple minutes. As you're listening, ask your spirit folks, ask your primary, ask your drum to for sure, and invite any other spirits that are probably pretty happy to be part of this with you. So so that's kind of an opening event to see. I could make sure all the spirits do show up and are very conversant with everybody. So anyway, that's kind of in a thumbnail, the story of the Freya, and she's actually named after Freya the Nordic, because I was in breath medicine, about second breath medicine. She comes up and I get introduced to her, and somebody like that is, when you're looking at them, she's large and she's tall. And so I did have an experience. But during the making of the drum, though, I was told that's who the drum was named after, which is very, very telling, very striking. So anyway, that's kind of an opening. Be interested to hear what people have to say.
Anyone who feels called, please put your responses or reactions, your experiences in the chat, and we'll have some time a little bit later to go even more deeply into our own drums and spiritual instruments. Let me just ask you, Chuck, in terms of a calling. I mean, to me, it felt like a journey. It felt like a calling, especially when you said bring the spirit guides closer. I think that's one of the most fascinating parts of your relationship with your drums is this the spirit guide aspect. Could you speak more about that?
Okay. Yeah. Everything that I learned early on in books, talking with people, and some personal experiences, it was more of a there's the technique, and you're birthing a drum, and there's a spirit involved. The drum is alive. It's a sacred object. When this little guy showed up and I started working with people, I began to realize and see from every experience exactly how many spirits are involved. There's the spirit, there's the drum itself, which is its entity. But when a drum is made, there are just layers and layers and layers and layers, I found, of spiritual entities that are actually part of the experience of when this drum is brought in. Because, the purpose of the drum when it comes in, as other sacred objects too, is to bring all of this particular spiritual energy to the person who brought it forward for their path. And not only just their path, but the path of other people that they're going to interact with and work with from a healing standpoint. It's all part of it. I didn't realize that. And I think a lot of people are, there's this ceremonial side of a drum where you keep it and you bring it out for a ceremony, or it's kind of limited basis. There's some that use it for their own personal work. There's some when you're working in a Reiki shop or something like that, you're using a drum to do certain things. You're finding places on the person that doesn't resonate, so you got to work on it. But what I found in spades is my technique of working with people on this, which opened my eyes. I'm really low keyed. A lot of times when I'm working with somebody, I just give them drum and say, here, hold this over your heart, close your eyes, and go to a Zen spot, go to a quiet spot, go to the tranquil spot that you go to meditate, and just see what happens. And then I'm quiet. And in those couple of seconds, where somebody will just sit like this, and so the times I'm in journey space, the amount of entities that come through, the spirits, the spirit guides, the spirit animals, it's a lot. And the person, I've seen a lot of times their eyes get big, or you feel the energy flow back and forth of emotional energy. When the spirits basically come in and they're working one-on-one with that person, either things that the person has been struggling with during their life, trying to figure it out, a barrier, a challenge. They come in, they say, here it is. This is what let's fix it. And they'll show them the solution. And the people come wake, and after a couple of minutes, it doesn't have to take long, and whatever awakening they had or conversation they had with a number of spirits is significant. I've seen a couple of people who've had actually life-changing experiences, awakenings, just crash on them, and shocked me and them. But it's there in the capabilities. I never really read anything like that as I learned about drums and how they're used in healing practices. But to see this one-on-one after I made this one and I made the other ones, especially this one, it really opened my eyes, because it's like, okay, we're dealing with a whole different situation that I had no concept of. So that was it really connected me to a real awareness of what the spirit land is, or what we are as energy beings. These are all our family. These are people we've been with. Sorry, it's my window.
I wonder if I could read a couple of the posts in the chats for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Monica wrote, "That was awesome. I saw the bears, strawberries, and a feminine spirit guide who had created a gathering for me to attend. It was really happy. Thank you for guiding that." Tricia said, "I felt that spirits from many nations were here as I held my drum." Francine said, I saw a white bear and raspberries, Monica, and all my past life ancestors. Lovely. So this makes the point, I think, Chuck, of what you're saying. That wasn't a very long experience, and yet it was a call of something very deep. Could you speak a little bit about how do spirits connect with or merge with the drum, and what spirits go in the birthing? What spirits carry with the drum itself, and what spirits are we bringing to our sacred instruments or enlivening by that connection?
Yeah, let me. It's a very good one, as are all. The multi wood frames that I make. There's about 24 different woods, and this is the Rainbow Goddess, and it's Navajo Hopi, Four Corners area, and she's powerful. But on, for example, this side of the drum, it's a medicine wheel, and that I put in all the drums. And but when I birthed one of these drums, the first series, I was really kind of struggling because I knew what I was dealing with at that point. And a lot of times with my spirits, I'm very casual. I talk to them all the day, and on and off. And so, but then I learned, because I read a book from Sandra Ingerman about ceremony. And I thought, wow, you really do have to have something that's very formal. So when I put a drum together, it's at the process where I'm gluing all the rings together, all the horizontal rings together. And I usually do about 8 at a time. And when I do that, I start off with opening my sacred space. Of course, in the shop, and the shop is always a sacred space, and you kind of walk everywhere with them. But I asked Sandy to be, she's kind of the drum mother. She's in all the drums. So I asked her to, go down the RSVP list and make sure everybody's here. And then what I do is I start at the top of my list, and I start calling in all the entities, all the main entities, the ones that I know of that, and it gets to be a pretty long list. It goes all different sides of the aisle. There's Chief Sitting Bull, there's Chief Crazy Horse, Chief South, which is Chief Seattle, or one of my main ones under White Buffalo Calf Lady. Then there's the realms. It just goes on and on. So I go through my list, and I'm specifically asking these group of spirits that have always been part of this to be part of the operation. A lot of times, the house is full, the shop is full. I feel all the energy's there. And a lot of times I can't speak because, they're all patting me on the back, and I can't speak, and I have tears, and I have to restart. I get to a point then where I ask all the spirits that are involved to make sure that they go out and they find the spirit guides for every person who is going to be a drum keeper in the life of the drum, as long as it is on the planet Earth. Find these people, find the spirit guides for all of these people, and invite them in, because the drum that they're going to eventually be working with a specific person is here. And I'd like them to be part of this ceremony. I also asked them to find the spirit guides of power animal spirit guides of the people who are going to hear the drums, they're going to hold the drums, they're going to work with the drums, or just be happy with the drums, to be aware that these particular drums are being created. And so it's a big gathering of many, and also for the future people, and for as long as the drum is going to be on the earth. And that's how I birth the drum. I go through all this, and I say, well, okay, it's time for me to get to work. So then I start working. And the whole event of putting them all together is let's just say I know I'm not alone in my shop. So that's how I birth a drum. In some instances, there's people that I made a drum for, and they have a list. They say, for example, I need 100,000 of my past lives. I need this capability. I want this spectrum. And I said, okay, well, the first time I was faced with that, I was wondering, what am I going to do with that? How am I going to put that in the drums? And as I do drums, there's a part in my acoustic library. Actually, I pop up there, and it's my shop, and there's actually little pedestals that on the edge that look out over the cosmos, but there's the drum energies are on those. And that first time that happened to me, I went up there and I asked everybody, I said, I got this request. I think it's your job, if you would, to put this stuff in that drum. So I don't know what to do. And sure enough, I mean, there was around that pedestal, there were some entities that came, and everything that person wanted was put into the drum. And so when I'm working with people, I tell them that if there's something specific you want, just tell me, because then I can ask. Although actually, for the person who wants that, if they just formally ask their spirits, would you please put this in my drums? I don't really have to know about it, because the spirits know, and they're going to be there and they're going to do it. So it's a little different way of making a drum, birthing a drum, than I've ever really read about or run into people, because it's a simple ceremony and everybody has their own ceremony the way they do it. I think a lot of times they don't realize how many spirits are coming into the drum, and that's what I found.
I think that brings me to a question that was posed by one of the members of the audience today. From Diane, please also share what to say to spirits that come through when we drum. Her comment was, "They keep me awake at night." We haven't really talked about that part. We've talked about the spirit guides. We've talked about crafting the drum, bring the spirits together. What is your relationship like with your spirit guides? And once they come, how do they know when to leave, or how does your relationship nurture itself in an ongoing basis?
Yeah, the people who there's friends of mine that they look around and they see the spirits. I mean, they're just that type of a gifts that they have. Sometimes I see spirits when I'm in journey space. I'm starting to see more and more of those. When I look around the house, I'm not at that gift stage of seeing everybody here. When they talk to me, there's been a number of times when I hear, "Don't do this, do that," or that sort of a thing, or give me advice on stuff like that. It's kind of they've really been telling me to trust my intuition more and more, and I do, and that's working out. I have other friends that I call it a staff meeting. When I need to talk to my spirit folks in detail, I'll make a list up, and I go to a friend of mine, Kathy Conley, and she's also a drum keeper, but she's very talented, and on the shaman ways and everything else. And we hold a staff meeting, and it's a formal one, and all the spirits come, and usually the bleachers that we both see, there's a lot of them there. And I ask, please tell me what I need, and some will come down and kind of give me guidance, and then I'll go down my list. What about this and what about that, and I got to figure out what I'm doing here, and I go down my list, and they all know what I wrote, and it's really refreshing for me, because it's a direct dialogue, and they could tell me, "Jock, you're not thinking good enough," or "You're OCD," or "But this is what you need to do." I think that capability of asking your spirit specifically, "Hey, help me with this one, can you?" is just powerful, and it's they're a part of our family. I mean, our spirits are their spirits. I mean, that's where we came from, and I'm not shy at all about asking when I need help. I've talked to people who, like the lady just said, that they talk to you all night, and they won't stop because they really want to talk to you. Those friends of mine that's happened, they finally just say, "Look, I got to go to sleep. Let's talk tomorrow morning." Formally ask them, "I got to go to sleep. Or just hold on a second." And it works. For everybody that I've known, it works. I've had times in the shop where I remember one time I was just sitting there, I'm sanding on stuff, and I'm thinking about my path, and I'm thinking about all the, how lucky I've been to do this. Boom! When they come in and give me a heart hug, I freeze, because I can't breathe. It's just like, whoosh. Or Sandy comes in and gives me a heart hug, I can't breathe. It's just this intensity that just permeates me, and the tears come, and the pure love that you feel when they're here and they want to pat you on the back or just give you a big hug and reassurance. I mean, I never felt anything like that in my life before, and that to me is the top shelf of an interaction with your spirit people, is that level of just bonding. Yeah. yeah, it's great.
Now, this brings up for me the care and feeding of your drums. Freya, of course, has a special relationship in your life, and yet you're the steward of several drums, a few of which I see at your side there. And as it relates to all of our spiritual instruments, whatever it is that we hold dear and sacred, what feedback, what suggestions, advice do you have about nurturing those relationships? I mean, do some of them feel neglected? Would they rather be Freya than who they are?
No,
With
actually, they are all extraordinarily distinct. They are all different characters, and I have so learned this lesson at shows, and I might have 10 or 15 drums sitting on the table. And it is so much fun to have somebody here, hold this one. And the surprise that they see from what they feel and who talks to them has been, there's a huge amount of humor to it, because I've seen cases where a lady, I gave her a drum, I said, hold this one. And she held it, she goes, whoop, and she put it right back. And I went, what happened? And she said, the drum said, put me down, I'm not yours. You know, and it was a drum that was going to go to somebody else, but it was emphatic, and she was shocked. But here, hold this other one, and happy things happen, or people talk to her. So I found that the drums themselves, they are so different. The characters are the group of, they're just different. They're unique. They're just like every human, every spirit that we have. Everybody's different. I talk to them a lot of times, and when I sell some at shows, I kind of feel bad, because it's kind of like the kids are going to college or something like that, and they're gone. That kind of, so I treat them just as individuals. Every once in a while I feel something, I'll say, how you feeling? Or, maybe I'll put you over here, you two. And I just have a real informal direct with them. When I take them places, I usually have them wrapped up with some sort of a red cloth or red leather or something like that, because red to me comes from the heart, and that's where heart and honor comes from, and love. So I treat them in a very formal manner. I've had drums where I had a small powwow drum, the first one that I made, and I had it at a show. I was going to take it to a show, and it basically said, "You're not selling me, are you?" And I thought, "No, you're staying. You're part of the family." And I felt this relief. It's like, good, I'll go to the show, but don't sell me. So it's just, I guess, opening a person's mind to that level of informality and formality with the drum is important, because they are unique vibrations and unique people, and there's a lot of people that are associated with them. So that's how I treat them. I put them in a nice place, and make sure everything is okay. They're not sitting in the sun all the time to get really hot, and you just kind of take care of them, and they're happy.
Chuck, when I first met you, I was thinking, well, what we were going to talk about is drums, but what we really get to is the drums as the means of calling and the means of connection. Did you ever imagine that that would be the level of work that you would be called to do when you first were drawn to the drum?
No. And I was drawn to the drums in a very deep period of Sandy had passed, and so even though she was shamanic and I was shamanic, we all knew where she was going. 8 months of caregiving with nasty cancer. But so I was really in an emotional place when Freya came, and that sure woke me up. But what I learned, which I had never really seen anything in books anywhere or people I talked to, but drums, from a traditional standpoint, going way back to Tongass Tribe, everything, far back as we go, you're playing a drum, and you're playing the drum for the purpose of calming somebody else, but putting them in a sleep state so they can journey, or the shaman himself, or the healer, or the medicine person can journey. They can pop back and forth. So that's the purpose of the drum. Or if you're drumming over somebody, you're trying to find a spot that's not quite right because it doesn't match. and you work. What I found through my experiences, starting with Freya, was here, put this drum on your chest and just close your eyes because you know it's a sacred drum. And to me, I found out that the word permission comes into this, is because the spirits will do things if they're given permission, if they're asked, if they're given permission. And these are sacred drums. All your drums are sacred. Bell and Dorje is sacred. A wand is sacred. If you tell somebody this is a sacred object, and could you please sit like this, or it's on you're laying on a table, and go to a quiet place. And if they say yes, they're given permission to the spirits. Well, what I found was that it goes so many layers beyond that. It's here, do this, and then all of a sudden, like you've experienced today, they come in and they talk and they show and they give people rides and they take them to past lives. They bring things up, and there is this work in progress that's going on with this person because they're sitting there with your particular connection. What I found is these are gateways, and it's kind of a classification of drums that and other objects that I was not aware of. But when you watch people journey so quickly, and you're not doing anything other than being part of it, it was astounding to me. I was kind of in shock. So many things were happening all the time. That's what I found out as what these drums are, and the reason they're put together is to be a personal gateway. Hold this, or sit with yourself and listen, or give it to somebody and work with them. I've had some Reiki people, friends of mine that are shamanic too, that I've given drums to as an experiment. Here, could you please take this with you when you go work with people? And those people, they put their little drum in the shop or around where they're working with people. They being psychic, they being shamanic, they've told me many times that all of a sudden that space is just expanded because of the presence of the drum and all of the spirits that walk with that drum. They've had people, amazing experiences. And so that's something I really hadn't read too terribly much about that happens. Some people put them under the table, or it's just a capability that, like I say, I never was aware of. I never read it anyplace. I didn't talk to anybody about it. It was the classic way of using a drum. And so this was, it really shocked me. And I know that's one of the reasons that these drums are here. And I've been told many times by my spirit family that, Chuck, we gave you a job to do. You're doing a good job, but hurry up about it, do more. It's this capability, but I think it extends even further than that. It gives the awareness that it doesn't matter who makes the drum, I think, and this will be an experiment. If you look at your object that you have, like your drum, and you take a journey and you specifically ask all the spirits to come in that need to be on your path and need to be part of this experience, allow somebody else to have that same experience, I'm 100% sure they're going to say thank you, and they're going to come in, and you're going to find a different experience that you've had, that you'll be having, that you really didn't expect. I've seen that happen before. I've taken things like, this is a good example. This is a story stick. It's on my webpage, but this story stick was made for me by an elder at my first powwow. And I've given this to people that say, here, hold this for a second. I've seen people's knees buckle because of the spirits and the energy that comes through by them just holding this and going, my God. I've seen people that hold this, and the first time in their life, they've had an experience where the spirits and the energies just come through and say, hi, we wanted to talk to you. Same thing with the drums. It's amazing to have that level of just, wow, this is so cool to be able to help people like this. And so that's my awareness, I think, and to share with a lot of people.
Well, Chuck, when someone's assessing their compatibility with a certain drum and you're present for that assessment, might you say anything to them about what has gone into the drum, or what spirits inhabit this instrument, or you let them?
No, I've had people walk into the booth and look at me and they look, oh, it's just, that's my drum right there. It's talk to me. I've had people come back from a parking lot the last day and said, is this that? There it is right there. That's my drum. It told me to come and get it. So I don't tell people that. It's just, all I do is say, here, hold this. Close your eyes if you want to, or hold this one, hold this one. Which one is talking to you? Yeah, that's what I do. And then as they get more into it, they have lots of questions. Where they come from, why is the wood, what's the connections? I explain the medicine wheel, I explain my path and how I came to it. Spirits involved and everything like this. And if I start talking more, I'll say, here, hold this, now close your eyes, and I'll do a little journey with them. And I do a lot of that interaction with people. It's just as part of seeing them. So yeah, it's always up to them. I don't try and, I'm not a salesman. I've been a really quiet salesman all my life. Here, hold this. That's me.
Chuck, if we already have drums, are they ready to go? Even if we haven't recognized this gateway quality or not completely experienced the gateway quality of the drum, is there a way to ready the drum for this or ready ourselves? Is there a cleaning involved? Do you suggest that anyone do anything in particular with a new drum they've acquired or something, a drum or a spiritual instrument that they have, but they want to awaken or bring to another level?
There's definitely things to do with a new drum or even your own. Let's start with the new drum. The new drum itself, if you're part of the creation process, there's a gratitude, there's a thanking, there's an awakening, there's an introduction ceremony that you need to do. The one that I was given with Freya, I'd come back from the Burning Man event, and I went to see the shaman lady, Robin Romero, that I was working with. She popped off, and there was this lady, and she said, "Go up to the mountains now, and as soon as you can, and have your ceremony of connection. This is your direct connection to Mother Earth and everything that's on the earth. Go and do that." And I did. But that's the type of ceremony that you need to have, whether it's just a very simple laying out of flowers, of something red to put your drum on, and have a conversation. Hi, have your conversation as it comes to your heart. During that conversation, speak of what you want, how you want this to develop, the vision that you see of how you're working with your drum, those sorts of things. And that's an awakening one. And that happens, I think it's applicable to every sacred object. When this particular story stick came to me, I went up to its awakening ceremony, was going up to a beach on Anacortes, because part of this, the salmon people are big into this, because the salmon people are big for the Northwest, part of the creation story. As I was walking up to the beach, I tell you, I just stopped, because in my gray space, the water line it was aligned with people and entities and little boats, and there was such a happy feeling of, we are happy that you have this story stick and you do your ceremony. It's very important. It can be very informal. It can be very informal, but it's respectful. And so, yeah, it's very important, because that's the start.
I love this, what you're discussing now, Chuck. I hadn't really thought of it in these terms before, about an awakening ceremony with your spiritual instrument, no matter what it is. I've just heard about red cloth, about possibly flowers. Say a little bit more about the awakening ceremonies you're aware of, or you can imagine.
The story stick one was very powerful. When I went up to the mountains with this one, with Freya, I used to do a lot of gold mining up in the Cascades, and we're up in some of the areas where our claims were, big canyons. And in between rain showers, I had my little altar set up in the back of my car, Sandy's car, and I was walking through the woods and drumming, because I had not done this before. And I'm drumming when I'm thinking, and I'm telling the spirits, thank you very much, and Mother Earth, and everything like this. I'm walking along and walking along. And you get this feeling of, you'll get a feeling of acceptance that, yeah, I mean, you're talking to somebody who's listening and they're talking back to you. And during that ceremony, I got back to the car and I was looking over the canyon, and I had a memory, and this might happen to other people, they'll remember something that needs to be done or could be done. I had a memory that while we were down in the canyons, a lot of times, Sandy could hear a lot, but there was always this grumpy miner guy that would be following her up the trail, and all she could hear was this rah, 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 this guy was just grumpy. But as I was there looking down over the canyon, and I had heard actually a woman scream off in the woods one time, and I had heard kids playing because that was an old mining district. So I'm sitting there, and as part of the ceremony, I'm saying thank you again, and I'm realizing what's going on, and I remember those particular spirits, and I thought, wow, this might be an opportunity. So I made a little speech holding the drum, and I said, hey, for those spirits that I'm remembering those events, if any of you want to go home because you want to go home and you're stuck here, there's a group of some serious spirits here now today that can help you. Just ask them. And I tell you, still feel it and see it. I'm looking over the canyon and it's kind of overcast, but I see 3 little cotton balls come out of the canyon going up. And I know instantly what it is. It's those particular spirits. But that was part of my connection to the earth, connection to the drum, the introduction, that type of a ceremony. And that happened, and I was just shocked. It was like, oh my gosh, what just happened? So it could be something simple. The drum may say, hey, this I want to tell you. The opportunities are endless, I think.
And do you think, Chuck, that one ceremony is sufficient if you either purchase a drum or make one yourself, or would you periodically reawaken your relationship with your drum?
I use my drum a lot, so it's a one-on-one all the time. You awaken your drum; it's your it's your buddy. It's with you all the time. It doesn't matter whether or not you are actually physically aware in contact. You could be off someplace and, oh, what do you think? And do that sort of connection with them. You make the connection, it's there until you say, I'm done, I'm walking away, something stupid like that. No, you connect with your drum, it's there on your path, and it's there on your path forever, as long as you have it. Yeah, that's my opinion.
And one thing that came out in the interview that we did that's available on the Shaman to Shaman interview series is your tendency to want to, as you're doing now, hold your drum, caress your drum, I would say, treat it not with a beater, so to speak, but with your hands and with your fingers. Could you say something about that more, about your intimate relationship with your drum and the way you treat it in its use?
Yeah, it goes back to my absolute awareness of how unique they are. They're all different, and they have different capabilities, reactions with people and such. But the beaters I'll use every once in a while. But for me, when I'm working with somebody, it's always just my fingers. 2 fingers, one. You get the rhythm going of what feels good. To me, it's the connection is so direct with the surface and the sound that you can make, and it can be subtle. It can be, it can be calling. It can be. But to me, that's the only way to play it if you're going to work with a healing point of view. I mean, you can thump on it all you want to, but you can get really soft and you can just really bring some rhythms into people that just soak into them, is the way I feel. And then, to me, it's the only way to do it.
Well, this is kind of a silly question, I guess, but you said that it would be all right to ask, and that is, if someone is going to purchase your drum, and they say, "Hey, where's my beater?" Are you selling?
Oh yeah, I make them and I give them to people. And a lot of times a beater has a lot of significance. And I'll tell you one story. There's a lady here in Cincinnati. Her name's Abigail, and she's a veteran. She was 14 years in the 82nd Airborne. Actually, she was the first paratrooper in her group. She's 42, and she had an awakening about a year and a half ago and heard about my drums, and she came and got one. But her other drum that she was using, it got damaged and it was torn. And so what I did when I was making her drum, and one thing she does, I'll just say this, is that she works with veterans for free to bring them to deal with their PTSD, their suicides. And she's worked, I think, with 70 some now, and it's all for free. And she's brought so many people back into reality. So she's an amazing, energetic person. But so what I ended up doing for the beater on her drum, I chose white leather as the head, but it had a hole in it, and for that particular hide, it was a bullet hole. It was where the elk got shot. But I put that right on the top, and underneath that I put red leather. And then when I tied it, because to me I was being shown she's a sky warrior, and what she's doing with other people that have the same similar PTSD of wounds of what they've gone through in life, this is what she heals all the time. This goes in with her spirit, and it was very important. So that was kind of an inspiration for that. And then the handle of it, I did kind of a round curving, but I took a long strips of the hide of her first drum, and I used that as lacing on the handle of the beater, because that was the connection to her drum that she started with, and she really loved that drum. So that brought everything together with the beater along with the drum. And you can see pictures of her films that, she's got her drum and she's just, doing her stuff with it. But that's, yeah, I beaters are every part of it. There's nothing wrong with them whatsoever. They're a very sacred object because it's all part of it.
And if someone were to show you their drum, would you be able to perceive the spirit guides within that?
A lot of times, not so much. People ask me a lot of times, how do you feel in your shop? And I'm in my shop and I'm working, I'm making these, and the drums. And to me, it's such a commonplace thing because it's what I'm supposed to do. There are times that I feel them specifically as to, okay, this is a good one. And there's times people have given me drums and I'll hold them. I'll see things because of what they are, and they want to talk. It's just something that I never really look to as saying, gosh, this now gives me the ability to do this. I can do this. It's like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And I'm seeing what I'm supposed to see. I'm feeling what I'm supposed to see. And I'm helping people like I'm supposed to help them. And I'm telling people how I do this to have, give them maybe another tool for the toolbox. It's kind of the way I look at it.
Well, not only a living tool, but a gateway, as you say, or a portal or an encouragement to connect with our spirit guides and all those entities and energies that can help us.
There's another part of that too, and it's the integration part, is that I had one guy who was a really good friend of mine, and he's a Snohomish tribe, and he's a brilliant physicist or a biochemist. He walked in the house one time, looked at the drums for the first time, and he said, "That's a different class of drums, Chuck. You've made a drum that's integration. That's everybody pulled in. Tribes have their own specific drums. They have their own way that they make drums. They have more their ceremony, what they do." But he says, "Chuck, you pull them all together. This is an integration drum. This is a different class." And that was one of the purpose of these drums, is that all the woods represent all the different things that I could come up with, the tribes, the connection, the medicines, the purpose, all the tall people coming in. That was the purpose of these things. And by pulling them all together into this sort of an entity, there's all those connections that you offer that the drum offers to the person that holds them. And that was one of the prime tenets that I was asked to do when making these, which is quite different.
As an integration drum, I certainly see that in the different woods that you use. I wonder if you could speak a little bit about that, your calling to use the different tree people. And
Yeah.
the other thing, when you're holding your drum, I can't help but notice the tie in back. That seems quite special, how you've crafted that. Is there meaning, significance behind that?
There's huge, because, as I made this thing, I had never made these things before anyway. Standard drum, you bring it over like this, or an Irish drum. There's lots of different drums with ways they do this. For these particular drums, I had to avoid bringing anything over the medicine wheel. I did not want to put anything over the medicine wheel. From a structural standpoint, you're going to crack it. You don't want to do this. So I make this bridle, and there's different ways that I make the bridle now. Yeah, this is about the same, but no, this is a little different one. But for example, on this one, there's 3 little metal rings right here. And there's a gold ring, there's a silver ring, and there's kind of a platinum ring that's a split ring. That's the earth. And so that's the connection to the earth. The gold ring is to the sentient stars, the suns, the stellars, to bring them in. And the silver one is for the moon. You know, it's, as I'm making these things, sometimes every other generation, I'll come up with something else to put into the drums or to make them. But that's the purpose of having a bridle like this, and I do it different ways, is to protect the medicine wheel. So when you look at the medicine wheel, you know, the reason I have this, and the drums are called Wakan, because Wakan is Sioux for sacred. I was given, Sandy, this is something Sandy brought out, the keeping of the soul ceremony, which is one of the 7 ceremonies of the Sioux that the great white buffalo calf lady brought. And she's very much part of all this. But when I made the medicine wheel, you know, I researched all sorts of woods and everything. But when you look at the different ones, we'll start with this one. That's holly. And holly, in researching, I found that's a wood that does many different things. But it was also the staff of Odin's spear. That's Nordic. And Yggdrasil, the tree of life, is Nordic. And that's very much part of this. I've seen it. And so that I'm going to use this one. So that's there. There's 4 on every corner, and that's Siberian larch. Siberian larch goes back to a place in Russia, the Tungus tribe, and that's where everybody in the books anyway these days say is the word shaman comes from. It's the Tungus tribe. I found that out, and I said it's got to be in the drums. I put them all on the compass points because of that importance. And the day that I was talking to the Russian guy that sent me free samples, I said I'll pay for the free samples, send them up, because he's in LA. I just got this vision space. I was dumped into gray space, and I'm looking out and I'm seeing this line of people going as far as I can see, and they're all in winter clothes. They have their hoods back. They're all Siberian, and they were all happy and smiling. And it just shocked me. And I had tears coming out. I could hardly breathe for a while. So all the woods that are in here, and there's the 6 of the Cherokee woods, there's woods, Spanish cedar, there's oak, there's cedars, there's Padukes, there's Wengi, which goes down to Africa. This is Orange Osage, and Orange Osage is a big wood for the Midwest regions. It's all of them have medicines and connections and everything. And in one aspect of making something like this, there's hundreds of woods, there's thousands of woods, you know, all over. And I finally got to the point of saying, you know, I can only use like about 24, 25. So everybody that I choose, you represent everybody. And they all kind of said, yeah, okay, we know that. We represent everybody. So that's why the woods are here. And this is why I made the bridle. This is the connections, you know, some of the connections. So it's important.
Chuck, that's so beautiful. Not only is it an integration drum, it's a global drum. It speaks to me of your purpose of bringing people together.
That's a 100-character mantra from Buddha. From the Buddhists, and it pulls all the Dharma together. There's a wood on the back that's red Nara, and that is the wood that's used extensively through a lot of places of the Buddhist temples where they use it for ornamental aspects on their altars. That calls the Buddha. I felt the Buddha energy. But yeah, you're right. It's just kind of, it's been quite a gift. Go make these drums, buddy. You know?
What a journey you've been on, Chuck, and what a gift you're giving to the shamanic community for anyone who's drawn to these drums in this online age. For someone who can't visit you personally or see your drums, how does one go about selecting a drum? How do you engage that process with a person?
I've had that done a number of times where I'll have pictures. Sometimes, you know, in my shop, I'll have pictures of drums. This lady in Idaho, Tracy, and I'd met her before at a training class for shamanic Reiki master. And she just said, that's the drum that's talking to me. That's the one. I want that elk. You'll find people that will see that. And I try and put I need to put more pictures of drums that I have available on the shop so people can look at them. Because I've had a lot of people will look at pictures of the drums and they'll be talking. They'll have a conversation just looking at the photograph, and they'll tell me what was said. And so it happens. And I just, if I can put more pictures up, or a lot of times, people have called and said, I've looked at your site and I want one of these drums. And then I'll start, well, what do you want? So yeah, it happens. It happens all the time. It's just natural. Because the spirits are everywhere. I mean, when I work with people online, we can sit and do a little bit of conversation, a little bit of drumming, and it's just like healing in a Zoom class or whatever. Spirits are everywhere.
Do you have enough drums? People, this must be exploding, really. People's interest in the drums as you share them. Do you have drums available, or is there a wait time to select and receive?
There's I don't have that many on site now because I had a lot, about 15 or so, and I've gone through those. And I had this last 6 months or so, I haven't been really doing anything because I had this issue of surgery. And I'm about ready to get busy back again. I never really looked at this as a huge operation. It's kind of like I stay busy at it. And if people want a drum, I try and keep enough inventory of drums that are glued together that I formed, so that they're there and they have the tension ring installed. So I have something there. Then I have spoken with people. And I said, "What do you think about this one? What do you think about this one? What do you think about this one? Tell me what the pictures." Well, I remember I sent you a picture of 5 of the orange drums. Which one's talking to you, or are they talking to you? So that's kind of the way I do it. And if business gets up or more people want more, I'll just stay busier and busier and busy. And that's kind of what it's supposed to do, is stay busy. So that's good.
Well, what a calling. And I know you make other kind of drums, and I hope that people will look the shaman interview to find out about that. And I just think you're so uniquely qualified to craft these beautiful drums, being an engineer.
Wasn't so much the engineer, because my part of it, what I used to do a lot of work was concrete, steel, building, big stuff, little stuff, and all that stuff. I did some woodworking early on, but not that much. And I had to kind of figure out how to make these things. And it was like, okay, what do I do? But the more important part is just a connection with the spirit, the way Freya was brought in, the way Sandy and mine's path was, and then her coming back and saying, I got a program and we're going to do this and you need to get busy and here's what it is. That whole process was such an awakening to me. I had never envisioned anything like that. So I was given this, and it's very, yeah, that's how I came to it.
I think Spirit knew what it was doing, because
Oh, yeah.
it gave it gave you an inspiration, and you also have the technical abilities to be able to maybe not know how to craft a drum in the way that you do from the beginning, but you have the capability
Yeah.
to put these together. It's just a beautiful expression of spirit.
Thank you. They're saying thank you too,
Um,
by the way, so that's good.
Well, I know we want to get to an experience that people can share with the drum. Is there anything else that you've wanted to share with us
Yeah, let's
about the?
let's do this. This just kind of came to mind as we were talking the other day, and it's germinated. Um, what I'd like to do is there's this particular drum. It's a steam bent drum. It's one of the new ones that I've learned how to do, but it has the condor, it's got the eagle, it's got the jaguar, it's got the serpent. A lot of the symbols inside, which are mine, engraved. But this is, I've been told, is a journey drum, and I've used it. First person I used it on, off they went. And what I like to do is everybody would kind of get ready to go into a journey space, and I'll kind of walk you through some things, but I'll use this drum. And so if you would kind of go to a quiet place, hold your own drum, hold your own sacred item, however you do this, sit back in the chair or whatever. And, I'll do this for maybe about 5 minutes, 5, 10 minutes. And then when I stop drumming, I'll play a little bit of a closing prayer on this, and when you hear that, come back and just see what happens. But in this particular situation, I like that when you get to a space and you're communing with your folks, ask them if they could bring into your path this type of additional method of working with people, which is different. It's a gateway. Hold this, go into Zen space. Ask them about that, if they would like to be to help you be part of this, or be part of this, and that the spirits that are really good at it, that walk with me, you'll probably meet a few of them, please be part of this. Try that and see what they say, because it doesn't matter what drum you hold. If you're aware of this, you're going to use the same thing in the same manner. And I think that's one of the important messages that are brought out. So let's kind of go in quiet space. As you go into quiet space, kind of shut everything down and walk through the forest, sit on the beach. You're on a different planet. You're watching this rise of two different suns, watching the several moons coming up over the horizon. Doesn't matter what lifetime you're looking at right now. It's all very quiet, tranquil, peaceful. It's warm, the wind is gently blowing. You're feeling the earth underneath you talking to you. All your roots are going deep. You can feel all your energy coming up to your spine, all your chakras going out, going up, connecting to Father Sky. Feeling all your the radiance coming out of your heart chakra. It's expanding out into the universe. It's very quiet. At this point, you're probably ask for your own particular spirit guides to come sit with you. Ask for your own particular spirit animals to come sit with you around the fire in a circle, standing at the table, feast. And ask for the spirits that are with the Wakan Drums, the Lady Freya, White Buffalo Calf Lady, Valkyries, Rainbow Goddess, the Lady from Guadalupe. Ask Sandy and all of her people to please join that conversation, introduction. And if you have an interest in really kind of what we do, see what the conversation is. So come back from journey and open your eyes again, and be interesting to hear your feedback. Be great to hear your feedback.
So sometimes it takes a minute to come back
Oh, I
from an
know, I know.
experience like that. That was quite powerful. And I'm going to make it so that people can open up their microphones and share their experience. So anyone who would like to share an experience, first of all, I want to say thank you so much, Chuck. I have a couple more questions for you too.
Sure.
But let's see if anybody wants to share their journey.
I will.
I
Okay.
knew you would, because I was looking at you thinking, you saw something.
Yeah, I did. I really did. So it was me on a white horse and just running at breakneck speed, just going. And in front of me there was a mountain range, and coming up like the sun or with the sun was, and this has been a theme for me lately, was a thunderbird coming up out of the mountains. And it was like I was on a mission. I couldn't have been riding any faster. And that basically was the entire thing, just going and trying to get closer and closer and closer. So thank you very much.
Wow, that was a strong one. I could tell just looking at your face. It was like, whoa, you went someplace.
Yeah, I did.
That's great.
Thank you.
Oh,
Oh.
Okay, I'll go next. So I was taken to like various civilizations, and I could feel myself at different parts, a part of it, or guides showing me, because it was like that I have more, that there was more that I needed to access than what I've been accessing from different like parts of the world. It's hard to explain. And then it like showed all of my energy was just meshed with it as if it was a landscape. And so it was like various guides speaking to me. So that was beautiful. So thank you so much, Chuck.
you're welcome.
I have to say, I took your advice to call in the spirits that have assisted you in making the drums. And I love the idea of all the different woods being included in the drum, because I feel like it is an invitation to any ancestor that's ever held a drum, right? On any continent, really are immediately invited. And the other thing that I loved about your share also is that I have not heard about using drums in the context of a healing session. I definitely have heard about drumming as part of a healing session, but not having someone hold a drum over their heart, or you drumming over a person and asking the drum and the spirits of the drum to help you to find areas that need work. That's really beautiful. And that's really, I think, a unique part of your calling. And, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, you and Wake and I had spoken in another conversation about how our previous careers, not necessarily previous lifetimes, because when you said you were making your first drum, you said somebody said to you, you've done this before.
Many times before is what Charlie told me as I was making Freya. Yeah.
So in past lifetimes, you've made many drums, but in this lifetime, you were an engineer, and all of that sort of engineering mind has certainly helped, I'm sure, in your thinking about creating these drums.
Yeah, I'm a systems type engineer. It's a three space engineer. I'm a mechanical, kind of a jack of all trade. And life for me is you see something and you kind of wonder how you'd make it better, or all the little dots come together, poof, and you figure it out. The in my path, as it's gone, I see things, I'll see something on the spiritual side. I've never run into a feeling of, oh my gosh, this isn't right. It's like something happens, experience happens, and I just kind of think and I go, yep, that's natural. It's supposed to happen like that. Totally accept it. And so even though things get bigger and bigger and more intense and everything like this, and like we had today, I mean, it's just natural. That's, to me, it's just feeling natural. And that's a big part of it. And, I'll pass on one quick story is when the first time I actually was up in the library, the Caustic Library. Part of it, at one point, there's this wing on the side. So that's the shop. You look out over the cosmos and there's places to work. But there was this big cabinet. For the first time I saw this, and the top of the cabinet on the mantle was Freya. But underneath, it was like the old machines where they have candy in it and they got the little roller things in, or cigarettes or something like that, where you put it in and it goes ching 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 and it pops out. I'm looking at this and I'm realizing that the whole bottom tray of part of this shelving, there are all these, and on those, they're all drums. They're all gray drums, and they go back as far as I could see in every single tray. And I looked at that, and on this Freya glowing up here, I'm realizing those are the drums I'm supposed to make. Holy smokes. And now, when I make drums, I'll go up and I'll look, and the ones that are alive and active, they're glowing someplace. But that was one of my first visions when I saw that. And the reality of looking back at how many, it was a message, it was like, wow. And the other Sandy goes, hurry up, get busy, or I'm going to kick your butt. She was, well, she's a strong one. She was a carpenter. And, so anyway, she's a very powerful spirit, and she knows so many, and she's buddies with everybody. So it's, when I say she's the mother of all the drums, she is in all the drums, and she has spoken with so many people, helped them along, which is great.
And I see people's hands raised, so I'm going to call on them. I just want to also say that it's comforting to know that other people's spirit guides tell them to hurry up.
Oh yeah. Or they're going to kick your butt. So it's,
Robert, you're next.
I want to thank you a lot, because I've had this drum for probably really, I think, at least 30 years.
Wow.
And today's the first day that I've touched it with the awareness that there's an animal here on this. Probably, I don't know whether it's deer or antelope, but it's the first time I've touched its skin with gratitude.
That's wonderful.
Sense that when I touch the skin, I'm touching its spirit. And the wood that's in it, it goes into Mother Earth and the trees. So it really is a very deeply alive being that I've not really over 30 years really appreciated.
Wow.
So I want to thank you this morning very much. I didn't go anywhere. I stayed here, but I stayed with this drum. For probably the first time.
You're going to find many other things will be opening up for you with that, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much.
You're very, very welcome. There's a lot of happy spirits that I'm feeling that everybody is very deeply appreciative of this particular gathering with people, and there's a lot going on. This is good.
Anyone else have comments or questions?
Trisha, I'd like to add just a little something.
Sure.
I'm in the same place as Robert. I'm kind of in like awe as I mean, I typically have used my drum as a means to an end instead of it being an alive and part of the spiritual journey itself. So I have a lot of learning to do now. I have to go back and really connect with my drum. Like I'm grateful for it, but I never really had the perspective of the aliveness of it, and as a being in and of itself in the healing space. The other part I like about your drums is I'm a tree person. I love trees. It's one of my happy places on earth. And so the fact that you have all of these different trees as a representation is just magnificent. So I'm really excited for one to pick me.
I'll tell you one quick story. It was kind of in the early days, and I was going to a local wood shop in Seattle. It's a commercial place, and so I mean it's a old building, and there's all the the 4x4s and rough wood. And I walk into the place, and I'm used to lighten up. You can feel vibrations and everything like this, and it's just what it was. So I'm walking into the wood store because I need to get some rough. I start walking in, I'm realizing I'm lighting up. My arms start lighting, and my whole body I'm feeling the vibrations, and I'm going, what the heck's going on? And I stopped, and then I realized, because I start hearing, it was the trees, it was the woods that was in that shop. They knew who I was, they knew why I was here, and they were happy. And I was looking at some of the species, and like I remember looking at the white oak, and it said, "Take me home. I'm going home with you." And I spent an hour walking through, looking at all these different. I was just blown away, because it was such an experience to have the trees excited and knowing, and take me. I'm part of this too, And it was, yeah, they talk. They're happy. There's a lot going on.
Sorry, my dogs are barking. So you couldn't turn down a couple of the trees. If whoever said yes, you incorporated it into your drum.
Yeah, there's one wood, it was Wengi, which is an African wood. It's the last trip I made there. I went into it, saw this beautiful black wood, and I went, I need that. And I looked at it, it was like $25, $30 a board foot, and I only had a small budget. And I went, I don't know. Came out, they rang me up, and I'm way under my budget. I'm going, whoa. And I look over at that wood, and it says, yeah, we know, take me home. Okay, give me some of that, And that's an interesting wood. I mean, it has a lot of properties to it, but it's African, and it's South America, and it's central. But I had one piece, and it was a long piece. If I cut them all out, it was kind of tapered, so I couldn't really use it. But one of my friends looked at it and says, "That's your wand. You got to make that into a wand." And I went, "A wand? For me?" Okay, so it's on my altar. It's on one of the altars, right? It's sitting there, and it's sitting on top of my black belt. I got at 61, so it's sitting on that. The other day, the guy that covered the show for me originally, Michael Williams, he's a tribal guy, he's in Alaska, but he was up and he stayed with me about 5 days, and he has a lot of stuff waking up. And I said, "Hey, let me try some." So I went and got my piece of Wengi, the wand. I said, "Okay, stand like this." So he did, and I said, so I touched him on the shoulder. "What's happening?" "My other side is all lighting up." And I went, cool, let's try the other one. Try this side. Oh, this is all lighting up, So the wood, I knew it was going to do something in the future. It was the first time I actually tried it on touching somebody. And then I had to hold it, and I took them off in Happy Land someplace. But it's amazing. I'm just so happy. It's amazing.
How beautiful that you listened.
Yep. If I hadn't, they would have shouted louder.
And unfortunately, there are people that are still hearing shouting, and they're still not listening. That's not this crowd, however. This crowd is a crowd of listeners.
It's really fun watching people's experiences,
Let me call on Consuelo.
Hey, well, first of all, I want to thank Chuck, because it came like a missing piece, of me looking many times throughout my life at the drums in different places, looking at them, and I said, would be nice to have one, but never got it, never knew how to use it, what to do with it, but it was calling, but I didn't know what to do. Okay, I'll get it, and what, that is the missing piece that was here today. Now I know.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah.
like I was waiting all this time to finally say, okay, when I get one, now I know what to do with it. For many years, I look at them.
Marvelous.
Yeah, definitely, they attracted me. It was interesting because in the drumming that you led us, and you guided us to be like in another planet or something with moons and suns and stuff like that. I was there, and suddenly all the trees and everything became like a crystal. Everything
Wow.
changed crystal, and I was in the middle of everything, all wearing like a golden dress, like a yellow golden dress, and there were thousands and thousands of um, beautiful beings, light beings around me, but I was in the center, and they were all around me, all white,
Wow.
really like a iridescent, I would say. They were around me as the drumming went by, and I was just in the middle, just feeling the energy of all of them and looking at. There was there were no more trees. It was just crystal like a crystal. I would say crystal cities or something like that. And I was in the middle of that crystal. Everything was crystal.
Wow.
That's what I don't know what I was, but I was in the middle,
That's
and
amazing.
all of them were around me. So I was wondering. And another thing that I want to add is that what you said, the way that we use the drum now, it makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense because I feel now that after so many years of looking at them in different places, now I said, okay, now I'm ready to get one. Now I'm waiting for which one is the one who is going to call. And now I know. So thank you so much. It's
You're
been
welcome. You're
wonderful,
welcome.
Chuck.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you.
So, Chuck, how do people order one of your drums? Where do you go to trade shows? How do people order them?
Send me an email. Give me a call. Email. Send it to the Wakan Drums at Gmail. And yeah, it's a good conversation.
I think it is important to say, Chuck, that you have this whole new line of drums that are focused on sacred symbology, and that people can
Yeah.
supply their own symbols and have a drum crafted
Yeah.
with those personal sacred symbols integrated. And it's your effort to both honor people and their journey and make the drums more accessible to people.
Yeah, and my friend Michael Williams, like I say, he's a Tlingit, one of the tribes in Alaska, and you can see his pictures on the website, the Steam Band Drums. The artwork that he has on that's his own signature style of drums that I'm making for him. Those are his artwork that mean many things for his tribal connections, and both inside and outside. So if they speak to you, I mean, for him, I'd make the frame and I send him the frame, and then he finishes it out. And he's an amazing person. He's yeah. So anyway, if those speak to you, then Mike will be involved, which is great.
What is the design on the drum sitting next to you?
This one?
Yeah.
This is that particular drum. It's a tribal design, and the guy's name is Scott Gabershak, and he passed away in '98. He was up in Alaska, crab boat, and got kind of squashed. But I know his spirit, and there's a person that I was working with on this artwork, and this was her brother. And so that's kind of one reason we ran into each other, is to put, she had wanted to honor Scott's drum or artwork. And so there were some drums that she put this on. But that's, it's an interesting one too, because there's an orca here, there's an orca here, there's the crow, the raven. This is, we think the bear is down here. Not quite sure what this was, but there's a lot of, we call it the Eyes of Infinity. And so this is, to me, this is the Buddha drum because of the 100 character mantra and then Scott's work. So yeah, I felt his energies. He's quite a one. It's always fun putting things like that on because, you know, you're dealing with an entity that, yeah, so it's good. You know, don't know what else to say at that point. Amazing.
Well, Chuck, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we close?
I'm very grateful for you know, this type of an opportunity. This is not only the interview that we had, you know, and working with people like this and just kind of sharing what this is and hearing the response of, I love it when people have journeys, experiences with this type of event, the drums and working with people and journey. What you're going to find as you start working with people, you're going to run into some very interesting situations because there's one recently where I had one of my drums on Barry's chest, and he had a stroke like 5 years ago, and he'd come to our groups and made a huge change. So this is the second time. So he had one of my drums on his chest. I had the other one, and I was drumming on him, and I got pulled into this, looking at stars, and I realized I got pulled into his head as we're working, and I'm drumming on the drum, and I'm seeing all these stars. And so I thought, okay, so I started throwing more stars up. But then I looked to my right, and Sandy's there. It's the first time she'd actually been on a journey on a healing with me. She's grinning. She has buckets of stars, and she's throwing up. But we were just helping repopulate his brain. But you're going to find when you use your drum in this healing manner, the journeys you get pulled on and what you just sit and watch what happens to the person, to me, is such a reward for doing this. And it's a reward beyond really describing because you feel it in your heart. You see something happening with a person, the spirit's involved, and it's just amazing.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
So I think that much like with our medicine bundles, our mesas or mishas, and aside from any particular tradition that you adhere to with regard to your instrument, right, that you can customize your drum yourself. You can make it more sacred, more holy, more personal. You can draw inside of it. You can, right? I mean,
absolutely, totally, absolutely.
And I would think that that would be extremely meaningful to put your own type of medicine into your drum. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And what that is, you're articulating to your particular spirit people, the ones that you walk with and who they walk with you. I am interested in this. Can you please add this to my path? I think it's important. And have that conversation. They'll do it. If you ask them, would you please do this? You've asked, I'm sure they know your path. You know, I think one aspect of tradition, you could call it tradition or not, Western civilization, Eastern civilization, whatever. When people come to the very simple concept of my spirits are around me all the time. If I want to talk to one, I can. I need to. And by the way, could you please help me in this? Could you please do this? That is as sacred of a request as if you had a whole council and they had this big ceremony and everything that's on. You know, it's the same because it's really between you and the spirit and you and your spirit family. And in my opinion, I mean, that's where I've come to in all this. And the more that you realize that, it's incorporated in what you do on a daily basis. It's, I don't know, it brings everything together for yourself, you know, and for the people you work with, or just telling them about it. It's important, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Well, Chuck, thank you so much for a really, really wonderful experience. I know that many hearts were opened today. Many
That's good.
spirits joined us. Many spirits' hearts were opened, as were ours. So I just really want to thank you for being here with us, and let people know that Chuck is available on the directory. So if you want to order a drum or make an appointment and just talk about your spiritual journey with him, he is available for that.
Yeah. And I'd like to thank Monica too, because when I heard about Shaman's directory, I was thinking, wow, okay. So I'm looking through your directory, I'm seeing a lot of names that I recognize, and I went, whoa, you got some horsepower. And then there's an application to send in, and do you know this many people, and can you get to all this? I'm going, oh crap, I got it. Okay, so I got some things. But anyway, I sent you my website to begin with, saying this is what I do. It's just something of interest, And you were very kind, and you went back and forth, and pretty soon it's like, yeah, we'd like you part of this. So that was and you're part of you're the indigenous representative. And to me, the first time that I brought the drums out was at a powwow. It was at the Arlington Festival of the Rivers powwow up in Washington State with the Stillaguamish tribe. I'm a white guy, I'm making drums called Wakan Drums, which is sacred drums, comes to the Sioux. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'm a little scared about this. I went there, and they said, sure, come on. I had so many tribal elders, different tribes, walk up to the booth, and they'd see the drums, and they so many times they'd say, thank you for bringing these to the earth, because they'd feel them. It was astounding. And that was kind of, I looked at your directory and you said, yeah, come on, join it. Whoa, that's pretty cool. So anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And I actually want to say thank you. This was amazing. And also, too, I think the vision that I had was actually the fact that you are bringing all of the different spiritual elements together in your drums, and how beautiful that is, and how the medicines are coming together within it, and that because you're doing that, you've already put that prayer into the universe, which is helping more than we could ever know, right? You're actually physically doing it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I wanted to echo that if I could, and just say what a treat, Chuck, it is to meet you, to know you as we do. For me, the most impactful little tidbit that you offered was the awakening ceremony. I think that is so useful and so profound in its own way. It's a matter to show respect for the relationships that we have. I will just say in conclusion, I mean, for me, you are a master shaman. You're unassuming, you're accessible, you're talented, and you're allowing and inviting. You're inviting us to engage this work. This discussion, the more we talk together, the deeper it gets. And I had no idea that this really would be the direction that we'd experience with you when we first were talking about drums. We're talking about living beings. We're talking about relationships, spirit guides. And just finally, in regards to my experience during your journey, that was beautiful for me. I contacted some of my recent spirit animals and guides and brought them together through your drumming, and they were so thankful. I realized that in the past I'd asked a guide for one thing or been influenced by a spirit animal for another thing, but they'd never met one another. And the fact that they were invited to come together, the fact that they were invited to meet one another and to play, to me, that's the shaman's directory and microcosm. It's in recognizing people, inviting us all to come together, to show ourselves and to play. I mean, what a beautiful gift. And that you're offering this, as Monica said, with your work every day. Yeah. So I'm so appreciative of getting to know you, Chuck, of feeling your medicine, of having your invitation for us to engage and have an opportunity for us to recreate the circle. I'm so appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chuck, you've highlighted the aspect of your drum being a sacred instrument. I know that we're all deepening through our experience with you, our own connections with our drums and the sacred instruments we have. I believe you've offered to give us a blessing to enhance the relationship, to deepen the connection. Is that something that feels like it's appropriate to offer at this point?
Yeah, I can. I mean, a blessing is asking concepts to be implemented by the spirits, to help focus them on items that are of importance and to help the people as best I can. It isn't myself, it's the spirits coming through, but it's us asking, and that's good. Yeah.
So maybe each person who's watching can find your sacred object, whether it's a medicine bundle or a rattle or a sacred drum, and just bring it to your heart and allow Chuck to offer us this blessing.
The blessing is kind of a journey, but it's a journey of a person with a clear mind and a quiet mind. And I guess from the blessing standpoint, I'd like to ask many spirits. I'd like to ask the spirits that walk with my drum, that walk with me, especially Sandy, because she knows so many people, spirits, off-world, on-world. But I'd like to ask your spirits, the ones that walk with you in your path, the ones that are part of your sacred objects, to really expand upon the interaction with you on your path as you work with other people. And the blessing is to ask for this interaction, this deepness, this enlightenment, your bond strengthened with your spirits, your spirit family, and the new ones that you're walking with. Oh. Yes. So, if you're coming back from journey, it's with something like this, there'll be lots of smiles, there'll be lots of happy feelings, and that's good. So, go forth with your path. You have new people, you have new entities. Enjoy. Work with other people.
Oh, thank you
Oh.
so much.
You're so generous, Chuck, and so willing. Thank you very much for sharing that, your blessing, and engaging the life of our sacred instruments. It's beautiful, the work you do.
Oh.
As usual, I'm crying yet again. Did you want to say something, Chuck?
No, it's again, it's amazing, and this is the experiences are the greatest rewards I ever feel on things. I'm very happy that many people have shared what you did and what they talked to you about. This is important. It's important to share it with other people. Yeah, go out and try working your drums with people in this way and see what happens. You've just added some extra tools to your toolbox, and you're gonna have some amazing times.
Well, thank you everyone so much for being here today. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Wake. Thank you everyone for your beautiful shares. And for those of you who are listening, for those of you who are new to Shamans Directory, you can visit us online at shamansdirectory.com. If you would like to find out about more events like this, you can scroll to the bottom of our homepage and sign up for our newsletter, and you will receive a monthly newsletter with invitations to more events like this. So thank you all again for being here and for sharing from your hearts. And we look forward to seeing you again soon around the fire.
Thank you.